So a lot of times people will reach out and ask on social media, on YouTube, through email, in all different ways, Andrew, how do I know when I'm ready to go offshore? How do I know when I'm ready to set up my company, to become incorporated overseas, to become a global citizen, to do A, B, C, D, or F, any of the stuff we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist. And I want to talk about that in this video. My name is Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, and you've probably been to our website, nomadcapitalist.com. I want to answer this question, and I want to give you some background on why this is such an important question, but also why it's probably the wrong question. So my simple answer to when should I go and incorporate it offshore is, I don't know. People ask me this question, I guess because we're trained to put our decision making into the hands of other people who may not understand our circumstances, who may not have all the background information necessary. But we're trained to say, hey, if I wanted to use your service, when should I buy it? And we're trained that the average person out there, whether they're selling you a used car, or whether it's someone who's selling BVI companies, or some kind of bank account opening service, or whatever else, the answer is always, well, you should buy it now. I don't know if you should buy it now, because when I look at the proper way to go offshore and incorporate your business and do everything we talk about at Nomad Capitalist, I don't know, and I can't speak to each person's needs. I'm going to tell you why in this video. So if you went to a doctor and said, "Doctor, when should I come to your office and see you?" I imagine he would say, well, you'd come when you're sick. So the question is, are you sick? How do you know when you're sick, and how do you know when you need a doctor's help? Here's the reality. People come to us here at Nomad Capitalist from a lot of different situations. Generally, people are asking this question, when should I go offshore, when they're starting a business and they want to know, hey, is it worth it to set up offshore and to have that cost to start, or should I wait and do it later? Or maybe they have a business and they're saying, well, hey, revenues are going to go up a lot next year. Is it better to do it now when things are slower, or to do it, later, but maybe miss out? I've had people, we had one of the biggest internet marketers that you've probably heard of come to us a while ago. And this is a guy who's paying many millions of dollars every year in taxes, more than pretty much everyone I talk to. And we ended up getting together and doing some work together, but ultimately he did not take the work all the way because it wasn't important enough to him. He didn't feel sick enough. And so that's the question that you have to ask yourself. When someone asks me, should I incorporate my business offshore, and when? I put it back on the person asking and say, well, do you have a need? What is your need? What are your circumstances? What's going on? And the reality is, you have to take responsibility for making this decision, but it has to be based on your personality and your needs. Let me give you an example. I'm a risk-averse person. I like minimizing risk. I'm willing to give up some upside to protect my downside. And that's probably why among entrepreneurs, yes, I started several different businesses in the United States. I got all out of them. They were all profitable. I sold out of pretty much all of them. But I never started Google. I never started anything close to Google. I've had a steady string of profitable, reliable hits, but I've done it by minimizing my downside. So my need to potentially incorporate offshore as someone who likes to minimize risk is different than the person who says, I know I'm creating the next unicorn and I want to set it up properly. So the things that you need to consider when it comes to when you're setting up offshore is, if you've already got a business, then you have to figure out when it is that you're sick. Because there's already going to be certain things. If you have a business, chances are that wherever you live now, whether it's the US, Australia, Europe, there are going to be certain things that you're going to need to do to move that business offshore. You're going to need to take an inventory of what's happening in that business. You're going to need to account for things. You're going to need to perhaps convince the government what that business is worth. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to do. And so It's simply a matter, if you already have an active business, of do you want to do it now or do you want to do it later? If you're starting a business, the question is, how much do I want to avoid having to take those extra steps when I have the business and it is successful? That's where the question of personality comes in. Someone who wants to cover all their bases and have that insurance policy should probably take the steps to set up their business offshore before they start. On the other hand, someone who wants to minimize expense because they either can't afford it or because they just don't want to invest that much in the business until they know what's going on, that person should probably wait and just understand that, hey, the price of success, which may or may not come, is going to be I'm going to have to do more work. And at that point, when you get to the point where you decide, hey, I'm sick enough, you can decide, do I want to go out and figure out how to do all this stuff myself and figure out the company to incorporate in or the country to incorporate in, figure out which banks, figure out which merchant accounts, figure out where I should be living, where's my tax residency, all the different things that come into play. Do I want to do that myself or do I want to outsource it to someone? No matter which option you choose, you're going to have to pay. I'm a big believer that our time is worth money. And so I literally will go through, even down when it comes to booking flights. If I have to spend an extra 3 hours in an airport where I know I can't get stuff done, then I'm going to put a value on that based on the value of my time. And I'm going to add that to the price of the ticket. So a ticket that makes me sit around at some smelly airport with slow Wi-Fi for 4 hours longer, even if it's $500 or $1,000 cheaper, I'm not going to do it because I value my time. So you've got to figure out what is the value of your time to figure it out, plus the lesser cost to set up that structure and set up your offshore ecosystem. Or you need to figure out what's the cost to outsource it to someone like Nomad Capitalist and just have them do everything for me. And I just sit back and maybe fill out a few forms or sign where needed. Either way, there's going to be a cost. And so the question is, would you rather have an insurance policy of having things be easier and potentially less costly, but certainly costly now, or would you rather wait and see? If you're starting a business and your business becomes profitable, you're going to pay all that tax along the way. Maybe you're willing to do that because you don't want to buy the insurance. The same way that a lot of people buy no car insurance or no home insurance or lesser insurance because they'd rather keep the money now, and if there's a problem, they'll deal with it later. So when do you feel like you are sick? When do you feel like there's a pain? I can't answer that question for you. The guy who came to me who was paying like $6 or $7 million a year in taxes and his business was growing, he got the information. He had us do some work for him, but ultimately he decided, I don't want to do what's necessary to put all this stuff into place. And that's okay. Because I suppose by his decision, it was a matter of him deciding that it's more comfortable and less work and by extension less costly for me just to keep doing what I'm doing for whatever reason serves him, whether he likes living where he's living, he doesn't want to have to move things around, it sounds like whatever it is, he made that decision that it was better for him to keep doing what he's doing. So when I talk to people, I'll sometimes ask them a question. Are you comfortable paying what you're paying in tax? Are you comfortable with where you're at right now? And what some people will do is say, they'll do the ego. They say, well, of course I can pay. I'm really rich. I got lots of money coming in. They can't be honest with themselves about the fact that, hey, I'm not comfortable. That's why I'm here. I'm paying $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million in taxes. I'm not comfortable with that. That's why I'm here, Andrew. And it's hard for them to really get into admitting, hey, I feel sick. And so some of those people, in fact, I would say all of those people are going to have a harder time getting the solution that's right for them than someone who says, Andrew, I'm sick and tired of paying this much money and I want it to stop. That person's going to be a lot more motivated. And both of them are going to be a lot more motivated than the person who just says, well, hey, I'm cool doing what I'm doing. Let's face it. One of the things that I've really prided myself on in recent years that I didn't do when I was starting out in business in my early 20s is associate with people who have a lot more money than I do. Here's the reality. There's always someone that has more, makes more, and pays more than you do. California has like 40 million people, including a number of millionaires, who apparently, by voting with their feet, are perfectly happy paying California's really high taxes. If you live in the US, if you live in Australia, Canada, the UK, most of Europe, you're probably paying a lot of money in taxes. And if you decide to stay living there, then that says, hey, that's cool for you. The average person in California, even if they pay $10 million in tax, it's worth it for them because, hey, they're living on the beach in Malibu, and they don't think they can get that anywhere else. Now, my opinion is you can get that somewhere else, and you can pocket that $10 million, you can lower the cost of living, you can have a whole host of benefits, but it's not my life. You have to make the decision what is most important for you in life. Any action that you take is going to impact other things that you do. Having an offshore strategy is going to mean that you're not doing something else. Paying for an offshore strategy is going to mean you have less money to do something else with. So, if you're paying that $10 million a year in tax and you're okay with it, then never move your business offshore, never move your banking offshore, never go and live somewhere else in a low tax country or in a zero tax country. On the other hand, if you're paying $50,000 in tax and you're saying, man, this is crushing my business, I can't reinvest, my business is growing more slowly, I'm not having the lifestyle that I want, and you look at the numbers and say, hey, I could be doing a lot more with this money, then you might have a greater pain and a greater desire to change that circumstance than someone who's paying a lot more than you do. And that's not for me to decide. It's not right for me to decide when should you go offshore. What I can tell you is the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. There have been people who have come to me a year ago, 2 years ago, and they said, Andrew, I need your help. And then ultimately they didn't decide to get that help. And then they've come back 6 months later or 12 months later, and they've said, Andrew, now I'm paying twice as much, and now I'm not going to make the same mistake again. Now I need the help because I feel sick. Now it really feels badly. That's the right time for them. You have to ask yourself, what is the right time for you? Anyone could just tell you, hey, here's a product, buy my product. This product will solve all your problems. But the answer in reality is that no product in the offshore world is going to single-handedly solve your problems. It feels nice to go out and buy something. It feels nice to join the gym and feel like you've lost the weight. But no, once you join the gym, you've got to work your ass off to actually lose the weight. And the same thing applies here. So the longer that you delay, the more it's going to cost in terms of service fees, advisory fees, moving stuff around, possible capital gains, all kinds of different things that have become more complicated, in addition to the tax that you're going to pay along the way. So if you have the money and you have the confidence in yourself and you have that kind of insurance mindset that you're going to do it right from the start and not have to deal with that stuff later, then the answer for you is to do it at the beginning. The answer for you is to do it before you start the business. Again, if you've already started the business and you're saying, hey, we think this is going to be an issue, and you have that insurance mindset of let's make sure it's not going to be an issue, let's nip it in the bud now before our income skyrockets and we're stuck with a huge bill and we're scrambling around, then by all means do it now. But if you're not sure if your income is going to skyrocket and you're saying, hey, let's just keep the money that we're going to put into creating an offshore plan, let's put that back into the business, we'll figure it out later, then that's when you should do it. You should do it when you're the person who's running to me and saying, Andrew, I'm sick and tired of living this way, and it's worth investing what it takes to get a positive ROI and to no longer have to feel this way. Anyone else can sell you a consultation, they can charge you by the hour, they can sell you a shiny report, they can sell you an object, they can sell you some corporation. I can promise you from my own experience that stuff is going to sit on the shelf and it's probably not going to solve your problem. When you feel the need to solve a problem is when it's time to start. And it's a matter of your personality of would you rather pay something now for certainty or would you rather pay even more later for the ability to use that money? That's a question that only you can answer. Now, if you want to find out more about how to live the nomad capitalist lifestyle with legal business tax reduction for your business, for your investments, living a lifestyle as a global citizen, creating wealth faster, we've got a lot of videos here on our channel. Click the subscribe button. Make sure you check them all out and find out how to put this stuff into practice for yourself. If you've been here before, go to nomadcapitalist.com. check out our more advanced materials. If you'd like some help because you're sick and tired of where you're at, you can ask for that from our team as well, and we'll see if we can help you.